Hello, ladies, and perhaps gentlemen watching. Hey, fam, what is good? It's your girl, Natalie, the Keto Bikini Pro, and I am back for another Monday Night Live Chat. Tonight, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I have so many updates for y'all, so much stuff going on. I needed to do a long form video to talk about it. I've tried to post little updates here and there of things on social media, but it's been tough to do that, to show up, to explain what's going on. There's so many rabbit holes we can go down. So I thought this is the perfect time to do a prep update. It has been a month, a little bit over a month, about 4 weeks since the last one, which is where I shared my prep history, my off-season summary, where I was at, where I was starting prep, the prep plans for this year. And then I did not do another update. So yeah, I was saying we would probably do about one of these live a month. So perfect timing to do a live one. And then I'll try to keep y'all more abreast of what's going on more frequently going forward. I keep promising that. But once you hear about all the craziness that's been going on, you might understand why I have not done that. So first off, let me shout out some of the ladies I see here live tonight. If you are here with me, comment, let me know you're here. Celeste, Erin, Becky, Karen, Marie. What up, ladies? I'm so happy y'all are here because I completely forgot to post about this earlier in the day. Usually Monday morning, I will post the actual live stream on YouTube so people will be notified, and then I'll post it in the Facebook group. And then later in the day, usually I'll post it on Instagram. Well, today I created the thumbnail and I posted it on Instagram. And then 30 minutes ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I never actually created the live stream on YouTube and I never told anybody in the Facebook group. So I appreciate y'all for being here because I thought I might be here talking to myself tonight. So thank you for making this so much more fun than just me being here with me. Emily, what is up? Glad to have you here. All right, so where to begin? I already have some insights I am looking forward to sharing as I crunched the data. On my first video for this prep a month ago, I said that future ones, I will be doing what I did last year, and that is showing you all my data on my spreadsheet. So I will do that in a little bit. I will share my screen and show you all the deets. There is some new stuff I've added to that crazy spreadsheet that has a million things on it. And there are also some things that I've taken off because I'm no longer tracking, for instance, my ketones and blood sugar. So that I have hidden those columns. I'm no longer using that, but I have added the Bristol stool chart number. So every day I'm writing down what my stool was like that day, which shout out to my ladies on prep right now. Hey, Becky. Where's her comment? Let me show that. She is 46 days and 20 hours out. How exciting is that? So, and I know Erin's got competing on her mind. So this is fun. So yeah, that's one thing I want to share that is actually quite powerful to see that along with all of the other data on the sheet. Water intake, electrolyte balance, stool. You will be able to note, oh, like in particular, it was a 0 yesterday. I did not poop yesterday. That might make a difference on the scale. So these are all really helpful data points to have. I've also added a bunch of new columns for more data from my Oura Ring. A while back, before I had an Oura Ring, I would just pretty much track my sleep time based on what time I was getting into bed and what time I was waking up in the morning. So essentially, it was time in bed, which is how Aura tracks the time in bed versus time asleep. Now, ever since I got my Aura ring, I started tracking the actual sleep time according to Aura. So what I've added is the Aura readiness score, the sleep score, the minimum resting heart rate during your sleep, and your Aura sleep HRV, heart rate variability. I've also added another data point from my Apple Health, which is my daily average HRV, which is really pretty cool to start to see that. So each morning, and that syncs, all of that data syncs across all my devices. So it will sync with Apple Health, and that will sync with Chronometer. So in Chronometer, I get to see all this data as well. So that's kind of cool. But I have it all on my spreadsheet as well. So now I have all that data, as well as all the other stuff that was already on there last year, which I'll share with y'all, including day of my cycle, which is proving even more beneficial as I share with y'all what's going on with my health. So, OMG Celeste, I'm so excited for you. Joined my first comp too, powerlifting. Not bikini, but still exciting. Oh, so exciting. I have never, ever done that in my life. I am so impressed by powerlifters. I've been impressed following you and what you got going on with your lifting and your improvements. And I just got to say, y'all, I worked with Celeste one-on-one for a while. I can't believe I can even say it's been years now. That's how crazy to me the last 3 years have just flown by. But to see, I mean, I just pop in, y'all. If you're not following her on Instagram, follow her. Celeste, drop all your all your Instagrams, but particularly, I always forget which one is which, where you're sharing mostly your lifts and stuff, because it's been really cool. I've been popping into her stories and seeing what she's sharing on her stories, and she will post videos of her lifts like on a regular basis. I'm so impressed by that, by the way. I'm always so impressed by anybody on YouTube, on Instagram, anywhere that are just staying super consistent with posting stuff, because let me tell you, it's been a challenge for me. Yes, wish you were stronger, at wish you were stronger. It's so cool. I will just say, as a coach, I have seen the improvements in her form, technique, strength, everything. It's just so super cool to see. So for ladies looking for some more online fitness inspiration, check out our girl Celeste. All right. Hey, Lisa. Glad to have you here, love. All right. Let's see. So before I dive into all of the data, I've got some notes on what's been going on that I want to share with y'all. All right. I'm going to jump down to the health stuff and go through all that first. The short answer, actually, the spoiler alert on progress, physique progress. I have not lost a single pound in 6 weeks. And actually, it's been longer than that because obviously it was coming out of a maintenance phase. So however long I've been at this at this weight now, let's see how long it's been. It was before the cruise, which was early June, that I got up to this weight because I was essentially still reversing out of my last show and finding my maintenance. Let's see, where April, May, end of May, very end of May. Yep. Actually, no, it was early May, mid-May. So yeah, basically the second week of May, the 11th to the 17th, was where I hit 121 pounds, 21% body fat. And that's where I have been weight-wise. We will talk about body composition in a little bit, because for my ladies who are struggling with the weight on the scale, this is going to be a powerful one for y'all to hear today, because my body composition has changed. My weight has stayed exactly the same. So And actually it was fluctuating early May. So I probably found my maintenance around the end of April. And then it looks like I really went into a surplus or maintenance because I was still kind of hanging out. Yeah, I was hanging out between 119, 121, which is where I've been this entire prep since beginning of mid-May. So June, July, August. So about 3 months. About 3 months I've been sitting at the same weight. And 6 weeks I've been attempting to cut and staying the same weight. So, let's talk about why that might be. Because when I show my data, you will see from baseline. Oh, you know what? Let me just share the data since I'm talking about the data. Let's talk about the data first. And then I'll get into all the why, I think, and all of my theories about what's going on. Where's the share screen thing? Is that it? Share screen, progress tracker. Boom. All right. Here we go. Okay. So, all right, here's where I was baselining my maintenance after the cruise. So I had just gotten back from the cruise. This week was cruise week, diet break week. I did not track anything. Came back, started baselining. Calories were around 2,000. I really had all my macros up pretty decently. Protein was above my body weight. Carbs were about 42 on average, 150 fat on average. So it was up there. I was sitting around 121, 22% body fat. 52.6 pounds of skeletal muscle mass based on my InBody. 26.9 pounds of body fat, so about 27 pounds of body fat on me. 94 pounds of lean mass. Not going to dive into all the rest of the data because it's kind of not as important as we're just looking at baselines. But let's jump down to where we are now. We are prep cut week 7. Here's the end of week 7. Oh, wait, we're 7 weeks in, not 6 weeks in. I was thinking I was 6 weeks in. Here I am thinking I'm entering week 7. I'm entering week 8. Is that correct? I guess so. At any rate. Oops. Yeah, because that was Saturday. Okay, cool. So here we are, 1687 calories on average. So I am about 360 calories under where I started. And I have been chipping away at that from the beginning. So I didn't just drop 350 calories right away. And you can see from where my fat started at 150, and then it actually went up because I pulled the protein down and brought the fat up for a couple of weeks, and then I started bringing the fat back down. So, but from baseline, my fat was at 150, and now it's at 117. So fat has dropped about 30 grams from when I started. Protein is also about 10 grams lower now than baseline. It has fluctuated over the weeks, but let's see. For the most part, I was bringing it up. And then this week, I actually pulled back a little bit. And I'll explain why that happened this week as well. Carbs came down from baseline, but I've definitely had some lower and then bringing the carbs back up a little bit because the last couple of weeks, I started adding some fruit in. Maybe just a week and a half, it looks like, because I had pretty low carbs before that. So let's see. So deficit from food, we would think, right? Something to think about. It appears that I have been in a deficit based, if you're only looking at my calories in, If you're only looking at food, you would think I'd be in a deficit, right? And this is a lot of the time why we see people say, I was in a deficit and I wasn't losing fat. Were you really in a deficit? A lot more goes into it than just the food. So all that to say, look where I am now, body composition wise. Same weight, actually up 0.1 pounds from baseline. Down 2.6% body fat from baseline. Skeletal muscle mass is showing 2 pounds up from baseline. Lean body mass, 3 pounds up from baseline. Body fat, 3 pounds down from baseline. So 0 weight loss, but 3 pounds of body fat loss and corresponding lean mass gain, according to InBody. Now, let me also temper this by saying I did switch InBody machines. Did I mention when I switched? I'll be able to see it from the muscle mass. It had to have been this week. I think I made note of it here. I thought I did. Maybe it was earlier. At any rate, I think it was here because Bronson and I got a new InBody. We got the newest model. And when we first switched from the old model to the new model, both of us saw an increase in lean mass, muscle mass by 1 pound. This might have been before though, because it went to 55. This is where it was. It was right here. It had to have been right there, somewhere around here. But that was also my cycle. So something else I point out every chance I get is that when our lean mass goes up and we see our body fat go down, so we're seeing a shift in body composition. In the short term, it typically is a water weight thing where water weight goes up, so it's showing up as lean mass and muscle mass. Because we have water in our muscles, we have water in all of the cells of our body, and so when we're holding more water, it's tracking where that water is, and so it will a lot of the time show skeletal muscle mass increases. So it could have been something related to my cycle, but I think this was probably when we switched to the new scale. And I remember it hanging out around 55, more frequently, and I was like, I never get 55s. So that's definitely slightly different. So 1 pound of that might be from the scale change because I did track that it was 1 pound difference. But to see 3 pounds of change, it's still telling me something here. It's still telling me that it appears I'm getting some recomp, regardless of the fact that my body weight is not changing. Now, this is interesting. As I mentioned, water weight. Notice yesterday and today, I suddenly got a drop. About 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of drop. Out of nowhere, this is what I've been waiting for. A couple of times in this entire cut, I saw 119.9, once there, and once all the way, all the way up here. I actually got it for a few days, it looks like, on the second week. That was when I first dropped protein really low. So that might have been a function of, and look at that, the skeletal mass was even lower. So sometimes that's another thing I've noticed, a correlation that when I started bringing my protein back up, I did get a tick up on the skeletal muscle mass. So I do think that makes a big difference too, or at least a small difference. So, but it's been since then that I've seen 119, and then I got it once, it went away, and then boom, 2 days in a row. Haven't had that happen in a while. I think that that is because notice what happened with my body fat. Now it's showing 20.5, whereas it was at 19 and even 18. It was under 19% for a few days here. But look what happened with the muscle mass. Skeletal muscle and lean body mass, 55.99, 55.98, 55.98. Now 53.95. So all of that weight that just came off, it's showing lean mass. And look at where my carbs are now. 17.8 grams of carbs yesterday compared to 28, 39, 32, 43. That's what's happening here, folks. Water weight loss, when we drop the carbs out, shows up as lean mass loss. Now I'll be curious to see, because like I said, I'm going to explain to you why all of a sudden my carbs have dropped back, significantly, and my macros are shifting this week. That is because I'm eating a particular way to try to heal some stuff. So I'll get into that in a little bit, what I'm eating, why, all that good stuff. But I'll be curious to see now how this evens out. The weight and the body composition evens out with the carbs staying under 20. And I'm eating super duper clean. So I'll be very curious to see what happens there. Let's see what else I want to show. Probably the other thing that would be of note is that my sleep. So typically you'll see all these weeks, look, 6.8 hours on average, sleep score just under 80. Readiness was still pretty decent in the 80s that week. Prior to that, 6.5 hours. This was my cycle week, so usually my sleep is impacted there. Sleep score was pretty low. Readiness was still decent. And then here, 6.7 on average, 79, 75, much lower readiness. 6.9, 81, 79. So everything is like, it's okay, but it's not great by any means. Under 7 hours total sleep, under 80 sleep score, some weeks in the 80s, some weeks even lower than the 80s in the readiness, right? Pretty consistently here. This is the way it's been almost every week of this cut from baseline. Look what happened this week. Week 7. 7.5 hours average. I had some nights 8 hours or more, most nights over 7 hours, one just shy of 7. Sleep scores in the 80s, high 80s all week, 85. Readiness, I had numbers in the 90s for the first time ever. 91 readiness score. Why? What's going on there? I can tell you exactly what's going on there. Look what happened here. Only outdoor walks for activity. Leisurely, by the way, these are not intense. So it's not real cardio, but that's how I tracked it. Absolutely no training. I have taken an entire week off training, and I put the little note sick there so I can track when I'm having symptoms of illness. So I will share with y'all what's going on with that. Next, we can dive into all the health stuff. But as you can see, the week before that, I did 3 training days, some treadmills, some outdoor walks. The week before that, just 2 training days because look, sick. Cyst rupture, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Week before that, that's where I did some dance classes. 1, 2, 3, 4 training days that week. 3 training days the week before with some dance classes and some cardio. So this week, the reason my readiness and my sleep scores are so good is because I'm resting. I decided to take a whole week off because there's been some illness. So I'm going to close the data for now. And let's talk about the health stuff happening. So, and I may even share my blood work if y'all want to see that, because I just got some more blood work this morning. Celeste and I are blood work twins. She got hers today too. I still have like a big old, look at that. This time, for the first time maybe ever, it actually hurt going in. And look at that big old bruise. It's not usually that bad, but I did have to take a decent amount of blood today because I got a bunch of markers. So here's what's been going on with the cycle stuff. All right, so a couple of big things. What is up, Low Carb Spin? Thank you for joining. All right, ladies, so here's the deal. Back at the end of February, the day before we flew out for the Arnold Angel Competition Bikinis fashion show, I had to go to the ER because I was in so much pain, and it was a ovarian cyst rupture. I knew what was happening because it had happened to me about over 10 years ago. But that's pain you don't forget. If you've ever been through that, you know exactly what's going on when it happens. So I went to the emergency room. They confirmed it. I never ended up going back and following up with my doctor. I'm going to beat myself in the head for that because I definitely should have. So here's the story of what happened there. A little story time. This time, I say this time because 5 months later, August 1st, it happened again. I woke up, my cycle had started, I was in pain. I thought it was just period cramps, just like the last time in February. At first, I thought it was just period cramps, and it just got worse and worse and worse to the point where, you get these, it's called a vasovagal reaction. It's when you start getting dizzy, lightheaded. You think you're going to pass out. Like the pain is so intense, right? Nauseous. So same thing. I thought it was just period cramps. I was going to put the heating pad in the microwave to warm it up. And it got so bad, I almost blacked out. I was like, okay, I know what's happening. I am not going to go to the emergency room again and wait around for hours for them to do all the tests before I can get a painkiller. I had some painkillers, prescription strength painkillers. I took the heaviest one that I had. After that, I started following up with the doctor because, okay, why is this now happening twice in the same year? This is a little too frequent for me. So I went through all this drama with trying to get a referral because my insurance will not let me to go to the freaking gynecologist without a referral, y'all. I could do it for my well woman exam, but I couldn't do it for a specialist visit because the ER said to follow up with my primary. I have to go to my primary to get a referral to the gynecologist. Well, my primary told me I don't need a referral. Well, thank you for being the insurance expert, but my insurance told me I needed a referral. She was going back and forth with me so long. I had gotten in on a cancellation to see the gynecologist. Well, I ended up having to cancel that appointment because I couldn't get the referral in time. So all that to say, I have not been. And then I had to get put on the waiting list to see the gynecologist before October. Otherwise, I'll be waiting until October to go in. So much fun, right? So all that to say, this is probably the last year I will ever do insurance. I was off of it for years. I decided to go back into the paradigm this year so I could take care of exactly any of this stuff that I might, diagnostic stuff that could be covered that I would not need to pay out of pocket for. Well, I will happily go back to paying out of pocket next year because I'm not going to deal with this crap. Anyways, all that to say, they encouraged me they asked me to get a copy of the ER report, the summary, and bring it in when I go in. So I did that and I read through it, which I had not done the first time. They gave me discharge notes, which is like what they give, what they give you as the patient, which is like what to do next and whatnot. They did not give me the diagnostics, what they ran and what the results were. And they did not tell me any of that. They just told me to go follow up with my primary. I read it all, and I found in the fine print that apparently I have a uterine fibroid that they just decided not to even mention. I can't even understand. I can't even understand why you wouldn't tell the patient what's going on. I certainly would have followed up with my primary a whole lot sooner and the gynecologist a whole lot sooner than letting this sit. It also said that there was another hemorrhagic cyst, which hemorrhagic cysts usually, it means they're filled with blood and they are likely to rupture. Had I known that, I certainly would have gone to see my gynecologist sooner. I had no idea that I had another potential cyst rupture in my future and no idea that I had fibroids. It now all makes sense why my cycles have been so much more painful. I thought it was just perimenopause. Ladies, I say this because we can't write stuff off. We can't just write stuff off and think that it's okay because, you know, of whatever. We're constantly being bombarded by information on social media, right? And the internet. And it's easy to write things off, especially in this phase of life, the perimenopausal transition and menopause. My ladies who are postmenopause, if you're dealing with symptoms like chronic fatigue, low mood, low libido, weight gain, difficulty gaining muscle, difficulty losing body fat, mood changes, all of the symptoms that you go through in menopause, hot flashes, night sweats, difficulty sleeping, all of these, osteoporosis, right? We need to look into this stuff because there are things we can do to help, and we can ask for help, and we can go get a second and a third opinion. All that to say, I just kind of wrote a lot of this stuff off because most of my typical blood work is fine. So nothing pointed to anything else going on, at least not until I had this consult, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. But all that to say, this year's cycles have been worse, and not just like cramps, because I've had cramps my entire life, sometimes excruciating. So the cramp aspect is perhaps the best it's been for the most of my life. Ever since I got healthy, it has been limited to a day or two of really bad cramps. But it's very possible. I mean, it's entirely possible that I've had fibroids for a long time and never knew it. And that's why I've always had a day or two of excruciating pain that's never gone away with all the lifestyle changes I've made. So who knows how long these things have been going on. I did know that I had cysts when I was very young because I did always have problems with my cycles. And I have had uterine ultrasounds long time ago. But they wouldn't do anything about it except birth control. So I wasn't going to do that anymore. At any rate, it all makes a little more sense to me now because I was having severe hip pain, body aches, inflammation that was much more than just the cramps. And I say just the cramps, but the cramps are pretty bad themselves. So severe cramping, back pain, hip pain, to the point where I was taking heavier painkillers than I would in the past. And for a while there, I wasn't taking anything at all. And then for those of you who don't know, I've always had kind of a sensitive gut. I've gone through a lot of gut healing protocols in my journey. Those painkillers do a number on your gut and or your liver, depending on what kind you're taking. But opioids in particular, they cause a slowdown of essentially your entire body. It's slowing everything down. That's how it, calms the pain. So your gastric emptying is slowed down, your digestion is slowed down, you can get constipated. And so I have noticed it has become a cycle that when I take those heavier painkillers, I end up dealing with, a couple of times, a few months there, it was like severe abdominal pain after my cycle, after I came off the opioids and just started trying to eat normal again, or just continued eating normally and taking my regular digestive supports, but I probably needed more. So that is something that I've also shifted to is if I have to take a painkiller, I do reduce my total intake. I'm eating smaller meals and I take more digestive supports to help through that. I just figured that out in the last couple of months. But on top of that stuff, I've gotten sick a few times this year and it's getting a little annoying. I got sick with the flu and it completely knocked me out around late March. That was coming back from traveling to Arizona. That was one of those just completely wipes you out. You've got to be in bed for a few days. You can't do anything. But then it's a virus. It gets through your system in 10 to 14 days and you're done, right? Well, a couple weeks ago, end of July, like the 26th-ish, I was like, oh, I think I got something. I think I picked something up. And I quickly went into high gear, stopped training, rested, did my broths, did all of my supplements. I have a whole bunch of different supplements that I will just overdose myself with micronutrition and immune supplements when I think something's coming on. And so I did that, and I think it staved it off. It's interesting. It tends to happen right after I was in the gym. I was in the dance studio, and when in the dance studio, I take contemporary class and heels class, and we are rolling all over the floor and sweating, and God only knows what, I probably picked something up there every time. And I got a massage, and I was out. So I was just out doing a lot in a lot of spaces with a lot of people. So I'm sure I picked something else up. And this time, instead of it being something that like totally knocks you out, I didn't go and get tested for anything. I figured, cold virus or something. And then because it didn't knock me out, I thought everything was cool. And then, went back to the gym, and then boom, I was like, damn, like this thing is still here. And at this point, it's been a couple weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks-ish now, almost 3. And it's just lingering. And for me, it's like the swollen lymph nodes, my ears, I have like inner ear pain, a little bit of a scratchy throat here and there, but no sneezing, coughing, none of the typical upper respiratory infection kind of situations. So I don't know if it's some kind of a bacterial sinus infection or something. I used to get those chronically before I got healthy, like over a decade ago. I used to get 3 to 4 sinus infections a year. I would get a cold virus or a flu virus or whatever, and then it would always develop into a full-blown sinus infection, and I would be out for weeks. So I'm grateful it's not doing that. Clearly, my immune system is working hard, and that is why I decided right now for this past week to not train at all. I was like, my immune system is doing a lot of work. It needs all the support I can give it. I am going to commit to not training, and I'm going to get outside, see the sun, walk in the sun, and feed myself a healing diet, a diet that particularly heals the gut, because all disease begins in the gut. So when your gut is healthy, your immune system can function better, your endocrine system can function better, literally all the systems of your body function better. Amanda, good question. Do you have seasonal allergies? Could also develop them even at our age. I have never really had any kind of allergies. I did allergy testing a long time ago for everything. And even then it was like nothing really. And it's so interesting because my mother does suffer with seasonal allergies. She's in Georgia too, which is a really, it knocks people out down there. And so I do remember always whenever I would get sick, she'd be like, oh, it's allergies, it's allergies. And, for a while there, I even took allergy meds. It never really helped me. I don't know what the deal was with my sinuses, but I do notice this, and actually here's a connection. Dairy. So dairy is mucus producing. And a lot of the time when I add in dairy for more than just a day or two, or one serving once a week or something, and usually it's not even that frequently. Let's say just every blue moon I have a piece of dairy. It may not impact me, but if I'm eating dairy consistently, it almost always turns into these kinds of symptoms, and then like the sinus face pressure and stuff. And now I'm mentioning that because for a little while there, must have been after the cruise. Yeah, so maybe June, July, right before I got sick again, I was using keto chow, the original keto chow recipe that's ingredients that has the milk protein concentrate. Yeah, so it's not even a milk protein. It's not even a whey isolate. It's a concentrate. So that has the casein and the whey. And I think I'm very sensitive to casein, not just like lactose. I'm not like lactose intolerant. It's the casein proteins that I think my body reacts to. So all that to say, the ladies in the academy, they know that my favorite gut healing protocol that I always go back to if I ever think that I need to really support my gut, it is the GAPS protocol. So the gut and psychology or gut and physiology syndrome protocol, GAPS diet. You can look up GAPS diet online. Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. I have the book. I'll show you all the book. This is the more recent book. This is Gut and Physiology Syndrome, the blue book. Gut and Psychology, the original one was a yellow book. I just love this protocol. It was the original protocol in 2014 that really healed my gut. And so I kind of go back to that every time. So the basic premise of GAPS, the introduction diet or the intro diet, is where you really cull everything out that could be inflammatory at all. And you basically live on meat stock, not broth, not long cooked 24, 48 hour fermented, broths, excuse me, not fermented, but not extremely slow cooked. You can use a slow cooker and cook it overnight, but generally she recommends shorter, a few hours on the stove kind of meat stocks, and then cooking the meats in the stocks. And then there's a whole protocol for reintroducing foods. And while you're doing that, you're supporting your gut with healthy probiotics, starting with natural ferments from food. And you start with just the juice. You're essentially training your gut to, or you're populating your gut with good bacteria and training it to eat slowly but surely, and then you add things back in. And then there's a full GAPS diet that is very similar to, if you're familiar with the Weston A. Price Foundation, it's very similar to that kind of work, and similar to paleo, not necessarily keto, but it is very low carb. If you remember the SCD diet, what did that stand for? Specific carbohydrate diet, I think is what it was called. So that was initially what introduced Dr. McBride to this kind of protocol for healing. And so it's very similar to all of that. So all that to say, the reason my macros changed this week is because I have taken all the extras out, and to the extent of anything that has gums or fibers added to it. So, protein powders, any of those things that have acacia fiber or acacia gum or guar gum. I have removed my nut pods from my coffee. I know it makes me sad because I love it. I removed egg life wraps because they are made with xanthan gum. I have removed the keto chow. I have removed, and even I had switched to the core, which is the beef isolate, but that also still has the acacia fiber in it. Perfect Keto, their products have acacia fiber. Equip, most of their protein powders have acacia fiber. There is only one, by the way. The salted caramel Equip does not have any gums at all. It's just the protein powder, the flavoring, and stevia. So I'm having a small amount of that in my yogurt because I'm doing yogurt, coconut yogurt for the probiotics. I'm going to make my own, but in the meantime, I actually bought the really pricey Coconut Cult because it has the highest amount of cultures in it, and a really good variety of cultures. But I have probiotic capsules that I think I'm going to start using this week. And I have starter cultures to make my own coconut yogurt. So once I finish that Coconut Cult, I have like one more serving of it. I'm going to switch over and make my own. And I have my Kalina, which is the other brand of coconut yogurt that I like to use. And so I'm using that with a little bit of the salted caramel Equip. If I really feel like I want something sweet, it's just a small amount of the Equip, and then beef tallow to really like give it a creamy texture, and to balance out the fats and carbs. The fats and proteins. So this week I'm pretty much aiming for a 1-to-1 protein to fat. ratio, and I'm doing 2 meals a day of broth and meat. So I think it was like last Wednesday that I officially like switched over to doing that. So I've been doing a lamb broth with lamb leg and lamb tallow. Basically, I do a tablespoon of tallow, anywhere from 1 to 2 tablespoons of tallow. And then I do cook the meat in the tallow, add the broth, cook it all together. And so I'm doing that twice a day. I'm doing the lamb, and then I just finished that, and I did oxtails and beef shank crosscuts together in a slow cooker. And so I've been doing that. So that's almost done. I have like 1 or 2 more servings of that. And then I'm going to switch to chuck roast with some bone marrow bones that I'm going to do the bone marrow and the chuck roast together. So a good blend of fatty and lean, and then the tallow to balance out the fat. So I'm going to be doing basically 1-to-1. And then I'm doing a couple of natural ferment sauerkrauts. My favorite brand for sauerkraut is Hex Foods. I'm going to show y'all it. And I have a post coming up I'm going to do on my personal Instagram page at the Keto Bikini Pro, because they just opened a couple weeks ago a brand new Whole Foods around the corner that I can walk to now. So I walked over on opening day and I bought a bunch of stuff, and then I did another run last week. So I'm going to do a post showing y'all all the stuff I got there. They have a lot of great stuff there. But so Hex Ferments, and this is one of my favorite ones. It's called Glow Kraut. This one has black seed and turmeric. Yeah, green cabbage, carrots, onions, sea salt, ginger, garlic, turmeric, and black seed, and black pepper. I got put on to black seed a while back. I don't remember if I shared that story, but it was the first time I got sick in March, and I found an old jar of black seed oil, and I started going down the rabbit hole about black seed oil. It was like, it was said that black seed oil cures everything but death. So I think Hippocrates said that or something. Anyways, so I kind of got back on it. I just bought a new jar of it and started taking that a couple of days ago. I'm just trying to throw everything at this thing to help it heal. So this one is my personal favorite. And then I found this at Whole Foods, and I got very excited because I love anything with beets. I usually love the beet and ginger or beet and carrot or beet and pear sauerkrauts. This one is beet pickles. So it's a naturally fermented pickle. So it's not like, it doesn't have vinegar, but it's beets, ginger, and spices. And so it's like a spiced pickled beets. It is so good. It has, let's see, beets, sea salt, onion, dill, garlic, ginger, brown mustard seed, cayenne, black pepper, star anise, coriander, fennel, and bay leaves. So this has like that spiced vibe. It is so good. So I am still doing the solids along with the juice, but I may start just using the juice because I do have a little bit of bloat, a little bit of gas, and that's something that she recommends is, you may be having a hard time breaking down those fibers. So I may just switch to the juices for this week. But basically what I'm doing is each meal I'll have half a serving of each of these or 1 serving of each of these, and then I'll have my soup, meat stock, and then in between meals I'll have a little bit of yogurt. And then I'll do my next meal, I'll do the same thing, a little bit of one of each of these, and then another meat stock broth, and then maybe one more little snack of yogurt. And so it's all meat, broth, and fermented foods. So that's where we're at with that right now. I'm going to continue down that path and add some more therapeutic levels of probiotics and go through that process. Oh yeah, Amanda, I saw the Hex kimchi too at my mom's organic market I'm not a kimchi girl, but I bet it's really good because everything they do is really good. So I'm aiming for this week. I've been kind of around 115 for fat and protein, which is really, if you think about it, this is like Bronson's formula for people when they want to baseline and essentially maybe be in a cut, is lean mass or ideal body weight, and mine's ideal body weight, 115, and then match that 1-to-1. So it's 1-to-1-to-1 is his formula. You match that to protein and fats. So 115 proteins and fats, and then carbs at or under 20. That puts me around 1575 calories, which will be the lowest it's been. I've found that I haven't been particularly hungry eating this way. But if so, then I'll allow myself to go a little bit higher and just have a little bit more of these foods. And we will see how things shake out this next week. But let's see. So the other thing that has happened that is a big thing with my health, HRT. So I have been talking about potentially starting on HRT, particularly with testosterone, because that is the hormone for me that has been significantly low. I had talked with 3 different companies. I got consults with all 3. I did blood work, some on my own, some through them, and roughly gotten pretty much the same recommendations. There was one company that recommended also doing progesterone, but for the most part, everybody had the same recommendation, give or take. I went with the first company, Joy Women's Wellness, which Celeste was working with them as well, because they had the best prices. So I was like, you know what? I like the way their pricing and their packages work, so I'll go with them. So I ordered the testosterone cream, and I started the cream on August 3rd. Now, the very next morning, I had a chiropractic appointment, and thank God I did, because I woke up with my traps and my neck so locked up. He could not get my neck to crack. He couldn't get things to move. He decided to do some dry needling. That's the first time I've ever had dry needling on my traps. I've had it on my hip before. For those that don't know, dry needling, the pain does not subside right away. You actually are pretty sore for a couple of days. So the next couple of days I was pretty sore, still in pain from, I'm sure, the dry needling, but also I was just inflamed everywhere. It felt like whole body inflammation, like throbbing, to where you can feel it on your skin, at my quads and my hips and my arms, down my traps, down my triceps and my delts. And I was like, I did not push them to tell me what the base of this cream is made of. You know, if it's a seed oil, it's very possible that that's creating this inflammation. Now, there were also other factors to consider. If I was already sick and dealing with a pathogen, it's very possible if I did get some kind of virus that was causing that. It's also possible that the dry needling made everything worse. However, there's also a reason why I woke up the very next morning after the night that I took the cream the first time with all that locked up. So I stopped taking the cream 3 days in because it freaked me out. So my plan going forward is I did reach out to them. I actually had a call with them that week and a follow-up call with the health coach. And I did ask her what was in it. She reached out to the manufacturer. She did get back to me. However, you cannot find out for the life of you. I went down Reddit threads looking to see if anybody knows what's actually in this base. I went to the manufacturer's website. They have all the specs. They have all the safety information. You can download documents. Absolutely none of it tells you all the ingredients that is in this cream. So the base cream is the HRT base. There's a couple different bases. There's the HRT base and there's a Versa Pro base, something like that. So it's the HRT base. The only thing that they were able to tell me was HRT base cream, testosterone, and propylene glycol. Well, the propylene glycol by itself could have been the thing that caused all that inflammation. However, I also suspect that whatever the base of that cream is made with, if it's grapeseed oil or something like that, that may be the thing. So all that to say, I'm waiting until I get back to 100% before I try the cream again. And then I'm going to give it one more try, and I'm going to do like a day of it and see what happens. Because I don't want to just suspect that it's that when there are other variables that could be playing in, but I now have to rule that out. Also, I booked another consult with another HRT company, mainly because, and here's a little hack y'all can use, mainly because getting all the testing that you really want to get for your health, for your hormones in particular, the hormone testing is not cheap. Thyroid, I like to get full iron panel and ferritin, and now I'm checking my iodine because I did discover with my past blood work that my iodine was low. So I'm testing a lot more stuff, and it can get very pricey, $300 or more. So a lot of these companies, these HRT companies, offer an initial consult and blood work for a significant discount. Like Hone Health, which is the next one that I'm going to do a consult with, to order blood work and a consult with them, it's $60. And you get basically the complete blood panel, comprehensive, or at least basic metabolic panel, a pretty decent thyroid panel, and sex hormones. So I'm doing all that through them. I did that blood work this morning. I also ordered my own additional labs through Ulta because they all go through Quest. So I was able to get one blood draw and get all of the markers I wanted to see. So I also ordered an iron panel, a few additional thyroid numbers, the iodine, and prolactin, which I've never had tested before. And now I'm curious about prolactin. So, and I'll tell you why. And what else I think is contributing to all of this and mix in with all the other stuff. So on that consult with her, she asked me, well, what is because my symptoms of low T are very similar to symptoms of low thyroid. For those who are not familiar, apathy or kind of a lack of drive, being cold frequently, often, dry skin. What else? I think those were the big one. There's like one more. All or low energy, fatigue, that kind of thing. All can be symptoms of both low testosterone and low thyroid. So I was always just assuming it was the T because I knew that my T was basically non-existent. My former naturopath from years back absolutely loved my thyroid numbers because my TSH was so low, under 1, and he wanted it under 1. And I also happen to know that on a low-carb keto diet, your T3 can be slightly lower, but as long as your TSH looks good and all of your other numbers look good, it's not necessarily a concern if you don't have clinical symptoms. Well, remember, I wasn't thinking about my symptoms as thyroid symptoms. I was thinking about it as low T. And I had my naturopath telling me I'm a unicorn, I have this amazing TSH. Well, both my T3 and my T4 are low, and my TSH is on the low side. It's not so low. I mean, it's not like 0, but it's 0.6. It's usually around 0.6. So I did a little digging myself, and it's a potential issue where, usually your TSH is going to go high when your T3 and or T4 are low, showing that your thyroid is trying to communicate, hey, we need more thyroid hormones. So create more T3, T4. But I was like, well, what could it be if your TSH is also low? It could be a pituitary issue. So the pituitary is not even communicating with the thyroid. So there's no signal. So TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, right? It's not saying, hey, produce more hormones. So why is my TSH not going up? So that is why I'm getting my prolactin tested, because your prolactin can signal if there's a pituitary issue. So I'm going down that rabbit hole. I'm very curious to see. I have also started supplementing with with iodine again. This was something my old naturopath did not want me to do. Once again, because of my unicorn TSH number. So I did get my iodine tested with my last set of labs because I didn't want to guess that I was low iodine and just start taking it and potentially mess up my thyroid, which is what he always had me thinking. So I actually tested it. It was low, clinically low. So I started taking Lugol's 2% drops, 2 of those a day. Well, I also had heard a while back about this skin patch test you can do with the topical iodine. Now, so a lot of people, especially medical doctors, are going to say it's not accurate. You need to get a blood test to really tell you. Well, it's another thing Natasha Campbell McBride recommends doing this patch test. And she actually says to do the patch test every night if you are showing low, because when you paint a patch of iodine on your skin, what they say is, and you can find more about this on Judy Cho's channel, Nutrition with Judy. She goes over it in depth. But when you paint that patch on your skin, it can also absorb through the skin. So you'll actually get iodine into your system just by painting it on your skin. So the way Dr. McBride talks about it is for GAPS patients to actually paint that on their skin, see, and what you do is you do that, you let it dry, you go to sleep, and the next morning, if it's gone in 12 hours or less, it signifies that you're likely low. If it sticks around longer than 12 hours, 24 hours, then you likely have enough. Now, Dr. Berry has said that it's not a good test because people have different viscosity in their skin and thickness in their skin. But if you do it on yourself a couple of times, you have the same skin. So from one time to the next, so you may be able to notice something. So Judy Cho recommends testing it once a week. If you're showing low, start using the Lugol's drops and then test another week later. Dr. McBride suggests to actually do it nightly until it no longer shows that you're low, because you're absorbing it through your skin. She also recommends iodine supplementation with the capsules. The capsules are in a much lower dose than the Lugol's. For instance, I have an actual blended supplement that has iodine in it. It's 14.5 micrograms in the capsule. 1 drop of Lugol's 2% is 1,000 micrograms. That's the difference. So Dr. McBride says not to mess with that unless you're working with a medical professional. So all that to say, I have been doing the Lugol's drops. I did the patch test. It went away within 8 hours. And then it was either the very next night or 2 nights later, I tried it again. And this time it lasted over 12 hours. Almost 24, I could still see a little bit. So I think that that's helping things. And I did that a few days before I did this blood work. So I'm curious to see what my iodine and my thyroid numbers will look like now that I've been taking the iodine. I am so curious to see if the iodine itself is what I needed all this time and if it improves my thyroid numbers. So I will keep you posted on how that goes. And Celeste mentioned something about the injections. Yeah. If you ever consider injections, you can get the MCT oil based. Yes, I did know about that. So I did ask Joy about that. And she said that she could, go ahead and order that for me. I told her what my plans were, to wait, try the cream again. And then if not, I will potentially switch to the injections with the MCT oil base. But I'm going to see what Hone has to say and see if I like them and what their pricing looks like. for the actual HRT and maybe go forward with them. But I have already paid for 3 months of HRT membership, or whatever they call that, with Joy. So I will probably just finish out with Joy. Maybe I'll go ahead and order the injections if the cream does give me a reaction again. Yeah, good point. Celeste says, I wish I had tried iodine before starting thyroid meds years ago. Yeah, I do think that doctors just jump to thyroid meds. You know, I mean, that's just what they do, right? That's what they're trained to do. So I get it. But what I will probably do, I mean, I'm going to see what happens. I'm really curious to see. Somebody mentioned the antibodies. Yeah, Celeste said, funny. That's the hypothyroidism I have, no antibodies. So I am excited because I haven't had antibodies tested either ever, or let's see, I have my blood work here. If I have, it might have been once a million years ago. Let's see. Where's the thyroid stuff? TPO antibodies. Yeah, I only got that tested once back in 2021. I guess that was when I first started working with my first naturopath. But I have not ever gotten it tested again. So I'm really curious to see this time. And I will say, just yes, I agree with this comment too. I also think it's because we have eaten clean for so long. Exactly. No table salt, no iodine. Exactly. And I don't eat kelp. You know, I don't eat like a lot of that seafood. I do eat seafood, but I eat like salmon and mostly salmon and some mackerel. But yeah, I'm not doing like sea kelp or anything like that. I did get a salt years back that's like a sea kelp salt, so it has iodine in it from the sea kelp, but I only took it for a little while, and then I don't know, I stopped using that. I just pulled it back out the other day, actually. So I'm curious because this time I'm going to get pretty much every thyroid marker, including the antibodies and reverse T3, because I want to see what's going on there, and then I'll also be getting the prolactin. So I'll be curious to see what that shows. Also, I think I timed this cycle really well because I am using Aura. I'm also using natural cycles, which syncs up with Aura. It takes your body temperature, so it is able to pretty accurately determine if and when you've ovulated. So it has confirmed my ovulation date for day 13 of my cycle, which means today technically was day 20. Tomorrow would be day 21. And usually I have slightly shorter cycles than 28 days. So I think I nailed it in terms of hopefully catching the progesterone peak. So I'll be very curious to see where my progesterone is on this blood work as well. In addition to that, one more thing to note on the hormone front. For the first time ever, I'm also testing my saliva. So I did that through a company called Hormone Bliss. I saw their ads. They were doing a free test kit you just pay shipping. So it was $12 to pay for shipping. And it's one vial of saliva. It doesn't do cortisol, but it does all the sex hormones. Not all the sex hormones. It's, I believe, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. It's similar in some ways to the urine, but the urine is metabolites. The blood is obviously what's in the blood at that moment. And supposedly, depending on who you ask, some people will say that this is not accurate. Only blood tests are accurate. But some say that the saliva is a better indicator of the hormones in your tissues, not what's just circulating in your blood. So I will be curious to see, since I got my blood and the urine collected at the same time, literally within 15 minutes, 20 minutes of each other, I'll be very curious to see what the saliva says versus the blood. So I will be sending that off tomorrow to that lab. And I also believe that comes with a free consult with them as well. So I'll be curious I'll come back next month or maybe in a couple of weeks once I get everything back and I can share with you all the updates there. I may also go back to my primary care physician and just share all my blood work with her and what's been going on. But I'm not going to hold my breath to get any good advice there, to be honest, unfortunately. Well, let's see. Anything else? I'm looking at the blood work to see if there's anything else of note. A1C is gorgeous. I haven't had my AM cortisol tested in a little while. It was a little bit low back in May. It started coming back up in June, though. Iron. My iron panel had me going down rabbit holes back in June when I first got those numbers back because my iron, oh yeah, this is a good thing I can update y'all on. My iron was high, clinically high. It had been in the past off the charts high. When was that? In April, it was really, really high. And then June, it was high again. The UIBC, so the unsaturated iron binding capacity was that the one that was low? Yeah, that was low. Total iron binding capacity was fine. But ferritin, it's like mid to lower range, 66. But I was taking iron. I had been taking iron for a long time. I had taken a lot of different kinds of iron. I was taking a heme iron for a while. And my old naturopath, once again, this was one of the things where he always said, well, you just have to keep taking it until it saturates, and then your ferritin will start to come up. Well, no, that's not what happened. It saturated in April, saturated again in June. Like it kept fluctuating. And most other people, my ferritin's not particularly low. It's not a concern, but to him, he wanted my ferritin above 100. So here's the thing. Some of these functional naturopathic doctors, they want unicorn numbers. And I don't want to work with someone who's just trying to get me into number ranges and not paying attention to how I'm feeling and whether or not this is actually improving anything. Or could be making something worse. So I stopped supplementing with the iron. And then I started intermittently supplementing with lactoferrin, which is supposed to help your iron get to where you want it to go, like storage form of ferritin, for example. So I don't do that all the time because even lactoferrin is dairy based, but lactoferrin, you can find it in colostrum, for example. I don't do colostrum because that is dairy-based, but the lactoferrin in a capsule, it's so isolated. I was like, at least I can play with this and hopefully it won't create the issues I have with other kind of dairy things. So I have been taking that on and off. So my iron did come back into a normal range. All of my iron panel numbers looked good at the end of June. I did not get them all on my last test, so I will be doing all of those again. The iron binding capacity, and the ferritin. So I'll be curious to see where those are at now since I've switched up that supplementation. And then I also thought it was interesting early in the year, I think it was early in the year, it was May, my cholesterol dropped, and I was like, I'm not one of these people who is concerned about high cholesterol. I want my total cholesterol to be a little higher. My triglycerides are usually gorgeous. In fact, in May, my total cholesterol was 190. I have not seen it under 200 in years. Not since 2021 has it been under 200. Triglycerides at that point were 33. I don't think I have ever seen my triglycerides that, oh, no, they were 25. My triglycerides were 25 in March. But my total cholesterol in March was 223. But 190 in May and 33 triglycerides, 80 HDL, 103 LDL. That's the lowest my LDL had been in a while as well. So that honestly, more like I'd be more concerned that my cholesterol is dropping than for it to be high. But I mean, with everything looking so good, I wasn't terribly concerned. I think that actually could have been from the black seed oil, and or that might have been when I started playing with Annatto-E, which is a different kind of vitamin E supplement, healthier and less risky than the vitamin E you typically find, which is a tocopherol. The vitamin E, Annatto-E, is a tocotrienol. It's another fun rabbit hole you can go down if you want to. That might have been when I did that. So I have to look back and see what I was doing at that point in time that might have driven those numbers down. But they've come back up since. My cholesterol is usually in the total is in the 200s. It's not super high off the charts like lean mass hyperresponder high, but it's usually in the 200s. My triglycerides are usually pretty significantly low, 50s, 30s, 40s, 60s, anywhere up and down between there. And you know what? A few of these, that might have been the one. There was one where my triglycerides were high, like 113. I've never seen that before. I think that's the one where I ate a meal and it would have been a high fat meal right before my blood work because I was trying to replicate whatever happened in, was it April when I got like a crazy high? Well, it wasn't crazy high, but a good testosterone number for one time in the last 3 years. But at this point, I think it was just a fluke because it was only that one time. Where is it? April, I think. Yeah, it was April 14th. It was like all of a sudden my testosterone, that's why I didn't start taking testosterone sooner because I was like, oh, it's good. But then all the other months afterwards, it dropped again. So let's see if I can correlate what was going on there. That was when my iron was super high. And what about my cholesterol? Of course, I didn't get my cholesterol done. That was the one time I didn't get my lipids. Womp womp. See, this is why I keep springing for all these tests. It might be pricey, but like I want to see everything so I can compare apples to apples. That's unfortunate that I couldn't see that there, but yeah, it's crazy. It's just this, so much of this is a guessing game. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll do an update on blood work and I'll actually show you the spreadsheet and any conclusions maybe I've been able to come to at that point. But let's see, anything else I was going to share? That's where we're at with the health stuff. Talked about recomp. Oh, and this is the main takeaway I want to share here. I talked about calculating your deficit. And by food, you might have seen, oh, it looks like she's in a deficit. She should be losing, right? This is the importance of looking at more than just weight, looking at body composition, but also calories in, calories out. It's not that simple. It is not that simple. Calculating a, quote, deficit. It's not as simple as going to a calculator, getting your BMR and your TDEE, calculating your calories and your macros for fat loss, and then boom, you're just going to lose weight. And then you're looking for weight loss, right? And not even looking at the body composition. Consider this. Bronson would love this. This is tooting his horn right here. Metabolism is much more than metabolic rate. There's more to it than any equation on this earth can determine. There are so many other variables. And the other big one that you'd think of is like activity level. We will never be able to properly calculate our, quote, calories out. Good luck doing that. Your wearables are wrong. They don't get that right. We would go crazy trying to calculate a perfect amount of calories in and calories out every day. It's just not possible. So we not only have the food that's going in and the activity level that we are engaged in on a day-to-day basis. That was something I didn't show on my progress tracker. This is something I'm going to show you all real quick, because this is something I do encourage clients to look at when, oh, it appears, they ate to their macros, what's happening here. I always say, well, let's look at your step count, your cardio, let's look at your training, cardio, step count, right? Let me go to this week again. All right, so remember, this was a rest week for me, right? So we can look at, oh, my calories were 1687. And that's a drop. Now, not from last week, because last week they were 1650, but that's definitely a drop from all the other weeks. 17, 18, 19, right? So it's like, oh, we're dropping our calories by 100 calories a week. We should be losing, right? Let's look at my activity level. So this week, average steps, 6,300, 6,400, 165 minutes of cardio. The week before that, 92 and 175 minutes of cardio. The week before that, 77 and 180. So down, up, down, up. 94 the week before that, 260 minutes, a lot more. Down, 72, 81, and 82 minutes. So you see this wave of my activity level going up and down and up and down. If we're not looking at that and we're only looking at food, we may not understand, oh, wait, I'm in a deficit, I'm not losing. But you probably compensated by moving less. So yes, that's another big piece of that. But it's still not that simple, because our metabolism is more than a metabolic rate. It's not just about calculating this number of calories. Health status, acute illness, injury, immune system activity, chronic conditions, metabolic health, blood sugar regulation, endocrine system function, thyroid, adrenals, sex hormones. Our metabolism is essentially a way of determining our body's functioning. Our body's taking our inputs, it's doing a whole lot of stuff with that. It's not a math equation. So we need to look at the big picture. And this is why I always say stress and sleep matter a lot. Our health status, our biofeedback, we need to be tracking more than just weight and calories. The quality of your food. So yes, I dropped my carbs by 10, 15, maybe 20 carbs, and that probably precipitated a water weight drop. But also, I cut out anything that could have been inflammatory to my body. I had some nut butters in there. I had all of those protein powders and supplements that had the gums and the fibers in them. Sweeteners, things of that nature. The fruit I had added in, just a variety of stuff. I was doing a lot of deli meat and smoked salmon. So it's like these, more processed foods that have some additional additives in them that were easy and quick, and Primal Kitchen mayo and, things I'm buying from the store, condiments and stuff. I cut all that out. So I'm just giving my body the most nutrient dense whole foods with all the nutrients in the broth, from the bones, the cartilage, all of the pieces of the meat that are coming apart in that broth, why Dr. McBride talks about it being so healing, all the nutrients you're getting from that. So quality matters so much more too. So all of these things play in. We have to think about that. Amanda, I love this. Your body literally decides what it wants to burn and what it wants to store. If your body is broken, you're effed. Yeah, I mean, if it has to repair and heal, like, it's not going to prioritize fat loss. It's got other work to do. That goes to the back burner. That's a vanity goal. Usually I don't dump on vanity goals. I'm like, it's great to have vanity goals. I'm not knocking that at all. But your body's not prioritizing vanity. It's prioritizing healing. And that doesn't mean that if you are significantly overweight, over fat, that you have to wait to heal everything before your body will lose body fat. A lot of the time, if you have a significant amount of body fat to lose, part of that healing will be fat loss. But when you are healthy, lean, athletic, aesthetic, the body is definitely not prioritizing fat loss when there's something else going on. So let's see. So we have to really weigh the benefits and the risks here, right? I'm looking at, okay, I'm doing a prep. So if I want to push to make my body lose body fat, I could cut my nutrition even more. Notice I didn't say cut my macros. Because by cutting your macros, you are cutting out nutrition. You are reducing the nutrition that you're giving your body. It's less nutrients. Once you've already cut out the crap foods and the extras, which I've already done, at this point, for me to reduce my calories even more, I have to take nutrients away from my body. That is not a good idea right now. Or I have to ramp up my activity level, do more cardio, get a higher step count, get back to my training. Once again, not a great idea right now, especially if I am sick and trying to heal from an acute pathogen, or if I'm potentially dealing with a sluggish thyroid or a pituitary issue or an endocrine issue. It's probably not worth it for me to try and push my body harder to make the fat loss happen. So for me, I'm taking this step back. I'm focusing on the basics of feeding my body well, nourishing, giving myself the nutrients, resting, letting myself heal, because the stage will always be there. And when my body is functioning optimally, the fat loss will not be so difficult, right? Okay. Also, to say, since I shared earlier that my body composition is changing, that is a signal that I am giving my body the right things. So, hey, if I can get some body recomp, I'm okay without seeing the weight go down. So, notes about my mindset at this stage of prep, you would think I would be completely discouraged and disheartened. Not at all. I'm taking it all in stride. My mindset right now is competing is a luxury. It is a luxury item. It is not a necessity. My health is a necessity. The stage will always be there. There's no reason I have to get on stage. In fact, if I don't, I'm saving myself a whole lot of money. So it's good on the financial side too. I love competing, but it's not worth my health. Never has been, never will be. So when it comes to my plans, I am definitely doing the ACB fashion show. Angel Fashion Show is happening at the Olympia. My first time at the Olympia. I cannot wait to go. I booked my flights yesterday to Vegas. So that being said, we are having our next retreat there. So if you are interested in joining us in Vegas in October at the Olympia weekend, we are going to be going to the Olympia Expo. The Angel Competition Bikinis Fashion Show is on Thursday, October 9th. Myself, my assistant coach, Coach Mary Grace, one of our members, Kristen, will be on the stage with us. All three of us will be on that stage. I do not have to be stage lean for that show because it is a fashion show. It is not a competition. So even if I do not lose a single pound between now and then, which I'm hoping, maybe I'll get a couple, or just some more recomp, I'm good with that too. But I'll be on that stage rocking my brand new ACB suit, which I think they're almost done with. I should be getting it soon. I can't wait. It's another brand new custom creation. So that's happening regardless. We will be there October 9th through the 12th. I'm flying in the 8th, flying out the 13th. So all of the information is now up on my website. I have put the link below to the retreat information. We are taking deposits from now until September 1st. So 2 weeks from today, we're closing deposits. So if you want to come in with us, get your deposit in. We will be booking a house, an Airbnb house to stay in together, all based on the numbers. So we need to know who's in, and then we will book specifically for our group. So very important that you get in on time. I'll be posting about it on my socials tomorrow as well. So that will go up everywhere, but the website link is below already. So that's happening, but I am now thinking that at this stage, I may not do the second Vegas show, which I was originally planning to do the FMG Vegas Pro on November 15th. So as of right now, I'm 13 weeks out to that show. And with where I'm sitting, body fat wise, 13 weeks would be a crunch for me to come into that show better than my last show. And to me, it is not worth it to get back on stage if I haven't made the improvements I needed to make. And the improvements the judges wanted to see from me was better conditioning, which means I need to get leaner. So from here to that show, I am about 7 or 8 pounds above where I was at my last show. I need to get leaner than that. So we're talking a good 10 or more pounds in the next 13 weeks. And when I have not lost a single pound in the last 7 weeks, I'm not super optimistic that all of a sudden I'm going to drop almost a pound a week over the next 2 months. So, or 3 months. So I don't know. I'm not making that call yet. I generally wait until about 4 to 6 weeks out of a show to determine whether or not I'm going to register for the show. I generally register about 4 weeks out, and I make all my travel plans at that point. So I'm not making the call yet, but I'm thinking, FMG Vegas is probably not going to happen for me. And then I'll focus on FMG Mexico in December. I have a longer runway for that. And that is, once again, only going to happen if my health is under control. So health remains top priority, and then we'll see. Exactly, Amanda, you nailed it. And thank you. She says, my body is already fire. I don't see the gain in cutting if it means you can't function optimally. Exactly that. It's not worth it. And especially that real last 6 weeks to stage when you really do have to get unhealthy lean, that's just always going to be unhealthy for anyone at any point, regardless. So if I'm not in optimal health going into that, then the last thing I need to be doing is pushing my body in that way. There's plenty of opportunities to get on stage. Speaking of, I'm now considering Angel Competition Bikinis is doing a cruise. They've done this, I think, the last 2 years in January. And this time they're doing a fashion show on the cruise. And I can wear a bikini that I already have from them. I don't have to also get a new bikini for that. So it would be pretty damn affordable. It's actually very affordable. I want to say it was around $500 per person for the cruise part. I don't remember if that includes the fashion show or not. So it's so affordable. It would be fun to get away on a tropical vacation in the middle of winter. So if I decide to do that, I will let you all know. I will invite you all to join me, and let's make it a group thing, because that would be a blast to do a kind of a KBB retreat with the ACB cruise. So I'll keep you all posted on that, but it just makes me think, especially if I end up not competing this year, I will probably decide to do that, because that would give me a stage opportunity and just a really fun vacation without needing to, push it to the max. So thank you all for being here with me for a whole hour and a half while I just blurted out all of the updates of life. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for your support. And if there's anything you want to know about this prep or anything in general, let me know. I will make a future masterclass about it, or I'll add it to a future live chat. And y'all have a wonderful week, and I'll see y'all next Monday. Good night.